In this video, we're going to learn how to make some simple labels using Illustrator. Here you can see I've made 5 labels, each showing different days of the week. We can then save each label individually as an image and use it in our work. We can put it in a Word document, a PowerPoint document, or any other place we might want to use it. We use Illustrator because it allows us to create images that don't lose quality when we resize them. If we created an image in Photoshop and we made the image much larger, it would lose quality. This is why Illustrator is such a useful tool. To create these labels, start by creating a new canvas. Click File, New, and then select an A4 canvas from Print, View All Presets, and find A4 in the list. Click A4 and then click Create. With your new canvas created, we're going to create the shapes that we're using for our labels. To do this, look to the left-hand side of your screen and you'll see a tool panel. There are lots of different tools, and the one we're going to use is the rectangle tool. If you click the mouse button or trackpad button while the cursor is over the tool, the menu will expand so you can see all of the different shapes we can make using this tool. The first one we're going to make is a simple rectangle. Click the rectangle tool and draw a rectangle on your screen. You can see there are 4 blue dots in the corners of this rectangle. If I click on one and drag it inwards, we can see that I can round the edges of the rectangle. We can also simply click on the rounded rectangle tool and draw the same type of shape. Create a rounded rectangle tool next. The pink lines show where the shapes line up on your screen. Next, pick an oval by selecting the ellipse tool. Now draw an oval on the screen. This can also be used to draw circles. If you hold the Shift key while using this tool, it will draw a perfect circle. If you release the Shift key, you're able to draw lots of different shapes of oval. Draw an oval on your screen. Next, draw another rounded rectangle. And finally, draw one last rectangle. Now we've drawn all the shapes that we need, we're going to add some colour. We're now going to edit the first rectangle that we drew. We're going to create a triangle by clicking on the Shapes tool again, clicking Polygon tool, and then click once on the screen so an options box appears. This allows us to draw lots of different kinds of shapes. If I create a shape with 3 sides by changing the box from 4 to 3, and then I click OK, a triangle will be created. You can rotate the triangle by moving the cursor towards the corner of the shape and rotating the shape to the left or right. Rotate the shape to 270 degrees like I have. And now move the shape by clicking the Selection tool and moving the shape up and over our first rectangle. Change the fill colour by clicking the Fill option on the right-hand side of the screen to None. None is the white block with the red line through it. We can now see through the triangle that we just made. Using the arrow keys on your keyboard, slowly move the triangle around until the lines of the triangle intersect with the corners of our first rectangle. Now click Edit, Copy, Edit, Paste. Then click Object, Transform, and we're going to reflect the object so it faces in the opposite direction. Click the Reflect option, make sure that Vertical is selected, and then click OK. Now click and drag the triangle up to the other side of our rectangle. Make sure the lines of the triangle intersect with the corners of our rectangle. With both in place, now click on the white arrow in the top left-hand corner. This is the Direct Selection tool. This allows us to select parts of individual objects. Hold the Shift key and click on the rectangle and the other triangle. All three parts will be selected, and you can see this because they're highlighted in blue. Now click the Shape Builder tool. You can hover the mouse cursor over each part of the shape now, and anything that's selected will be highlighted in black. You can see next to the cursor there is a plus symbol. If we hold the Option key on our keyboard, the plus symbol turns to a minus. This allows us to delete the piece that's highlighted in black. Delete the outer sections of the triangle so that we've created a banner-like shape. Now click the Selection tool again and click on the final rectangle. Now click Window and scroll down to the Transform option. This will bring up a new tool window. If you look at the many options here, you can see there's a rectangle that's leaning to the side. This is called the Shear option. This allows us to change the sides of the shape to make it look like it's leaning in a certain direction. We can use minus options here, or we can use a plus option. You don't need to type the plus, just type a positive number. So I'm going to change the shear to 30 degrees. You can see the shapes have changed and the sides are now sloping in one direction. You can now close the Transform box and we're going to add some colour to our shapes. Make sure the Selection tool is clicked and click on the first shape. On the right hand side of the screen, click on the Fill colour and add a fill colour to your shape. I'm going to use a light blue. The stroke colour gives a border to the shape. Click the stroke colour and you can select a colour for the border. We can change the size of the border by clicking the slider up or down to increase the size. If I have a 5-point border and click on the grey background, you can see I now have a nice blue and pink label. Change the colour for the other shapes. First select the rounded rectangle and choose a fill colour. Then choose a stroke colour. Change the size of the stroke again. Now do the oval. Change the stroke colour. Now click on the other rounded rectangle. In the fill colour, you can see there is an option where one colour merges into another. This is called a gradient. Click on one of these gradients. You have black and white, orange and yellow, or fading sky. Select orange and yellow. Even if we don't want to use these colours, we can change it in a moment. Click orange and yellow to add a gradient to your shape. Now you can see a Gradient Options button has appeared at the bottom of the colour window. Click the gradient options. You can see that there are different sliders at the bottom of this gradient bar, and we can move the sliders left to right to change the look of the gradient. You always need 2 sliders as a minimum on this bar. If you want to get rid of one of the sliders to remove that colour, you can click on the slider you want to remove and click on the trash can. This deletes that colour from your gradient. Remove all of the colours until there are only 2 left. Now we're going to add our own colours to the gradient. Click on the Fill option in the right hand side of the screen and choose colours that you'd like to add. I'm going to add green by clicking, holding the mouse button and dragging it onto the gradient bar. You'll see a plus icon appear, which means that you've added it. Release the mouse button and you've added the gradient. Now pick another colour. I'm going to pick blue. Click, hold and drag it onto the gradient bar. You can now delete the old colours that we're not going to use. Click on the other colours and click the trash can to remove them. Now you can rearrange the sliders to make the gradient look how you want. Finally, add a stroke colour to the rectangle. Click the stroke colour and choose one. Resize the size of the stroke to increase the size of the border. And finally, add colour to our last label. Click it, make sure it's selected, and add your fill colour and stroke colour. Now we've finished creating our labels, we can add text using the Type tool. The Type tool can be found on the left-hand side of the screen. Click the Type tool and then draw a rectangle where you'd like to place your text. Type the text you want into the box. I'm going to type Monday in capital letters. You can highlight the text and change the font that you're using by selecting the font style, which can be found on the right-hand side of the screen. Choose a font that you like, click the font and it will apply that change. You can also change the font size by using the font size selector. Click on the down arrow and it gives you several options. If the option that you'd like to choose isn't there, you can always click on the up or down arrows next to the number and change the size manually. When you're happy with your font, you can click on the background to deselect it, see how it looks. You can also change the font colour by clicking on the selection tool, clicking on the text, and changing the fill colour option. You can choose any colour that you find in the swatches panel. Using the selection tool, you can also click and move the text around the box. You can place it more precisely by using the arrow keys on your keyboard. Add the other days of the week to the other boxes. Click on the Type tool and add the other days of the week. With each day typed into the label, we can now edit the text to make it look the way we'd like. Click the selection tool, click on Tuesday and change the options as needed. You can use any colour that you like. Do this for each day of the week until you've finished all of the labels. We've now finished creating our labels. Click on the grey background to deselect anything that's currently selected. The final step is to save each of these labels in an individual file. To do this, all you have to do is find out how large each label is and create a new canvas. Before we do that, let's save our work. Click File, Save As, and your image will be called Untitled. Give it a name that you will remember. I will call mine Labels. Choose a place to save it on your computer. I'm going to save this one on my desktop. When you're ready, click Save and you'll have saved your project. With the Illustrator options window, ignore all these settings and just click OK. This project has now been saved on your computer so that we can edit it later. Now, click on the rectangle tool again and draw a box over the first label. You can see a grey window has appeared in the bottom right-hand corner of this new rectangle. It shows the width of this rectangle is 429 pixels wide and 107 pixels high. I'm going to create a new canvas that is that size. You might want to write down these numbers with a pen. Delete the rectangle you've just created and now go to File, New. Change the size setting for the canvas to pixels. And now create a canvas that's the same size as the numbers we just wrote down. 429 and 117. The new canvas will be 429 pixels wide and 117 pixels high, and click Create. Now go back to your Labels window by clicking in the toolbar at the top of the window. Select the file you're working in. Click the Selection tool. Drag a box around the label you want to copy. Make sure it's all selected and hit Edit, Copy. Go to your new canvas and click Edit, Paste. You can see, even though it appears larger on the screen, we've not lost any quality. And this is why we use Illustrator. To save this label as an image that we can use in our work, we need to save it as an SVG file. To do this, click File, Export, Export As, give it a name, and change the format of the picture. There's lots of different image types. The most common are PNG, BMP, and JPEG. PNG is good because it supports transparency effects, like see-through backgrounds. Bitmaps are very large, and JPEGs are standard images that you'll find online. These always have white or other coloured backgrounds. They don't support transparency. The problem with any of these file types is that when we resize them, they will lose quality. Select the SVG file to create a vector image. This is an image that will not lose quality when we resize it. Click SVG and then save your work by clicking Export. This will save this file onto my desktop where I chose to save it earlier. Click Export. Ignore the options, leave them as they are, and simply click OK. You've now saved your file as an SVG. You will find it on your computer, wherever you happen to save it. Do this for each of the labels, and you can use them in your work. If I go to a blank PowerPoint slide now, I can click Insert, Picture, from File, I'll go to my desktop and find the label that I've just made, monday.svg. I can click Insert and it will insert into my work. I can resize it and it won't lose any quality no matter how large it becomes. And that's the end of the tutorial.